Welcome everybody, and this is Get Your Geek On review of Cowboy Bebop Netflix edition. Alright everybody, this is our review here at Get Your Geek On of Cowboy Bebop, the live action rendition of the classic anime back from 1998. So I mean, we're talking 23 years almost. And did Netflix nail it? Or was this just a huge disappointment for anyone who really loves the anime? And the short answer, it's disappointment. So if that's all you wanted for, congratulations, you can go and enjoy your day. If you want to know why I think it's a disappointment, stay tuned and you'll hear me ramble for a few minutes as to why it's not that great. Maybe slightly worth watching, maybe just good. So I want to say this. They did do some of it amazing. I think the characters look good. We have an updated Faye Valentine. She does look more covered up. Doesn't look like she's just being sexualized in any way or form. Not like the anime where she's basically running around half naked. But like Spike looks good too. Jet looks good. Ed, when you see her for the minute that she's on screen, she looks good. Vicious, they did tweak him a little bit. Again, you're going from an anime to live action, so the tweaks they made, I get, and I enjoyed it. Julia looks good. Gren and Anna, I don't know how I feel yet on those characters, but I'll get into that. So, and again, we're talking this anime is 23 years old. I actually decided to binge watch the anime right before the live action rendition dropped onto Netflix. And I don't know if that hurt or helped it, because the fact is I had everything fresh in my mind of the anime. Like literally I finished the last 2 episodes and the next hour I'm watching the live action rendition. Now again, we're going from a cartoon, which we can do whatever we want in a cartoon and it still looks cool, to a live action. We're bound by the laws of physics. So I get where some of the stuff had to change. Vicious having this vulture looking thing that, explodes and all that. Yeah, you can't really do that, which I get. We have to figure out how to make that now more realistic. Some of it I also get from a production standpoint. We don't get a lot of different planets like we really do in the anime. We pretty much just get Earth and one other planet and a sprinkle of like talk of other ones and a little bit on the ship. Most of this stuff happens in the ship, and you can tell that it's pretty much the same sets over and over. With, again, you only probably have so much money for a production value to make these live action shows, and you got to stay in that budget. So I get why they couldn't be on the space ship all the time, going through space, going through the gates, constantly showing new worlds, because of those limitations. Now, the looks of the characters are fine. The attitudes are pretty spot on, I would say, except for the villains. I feel they redid all of our villains. Vicious, the clown guy, I can't remember his name. Basically anyone that we saw that was in the anime and now is in the live action, all of their backstories were changed, it feels like. Vicious, instead, like when I saw the anime again, I saw it right before, again, for like the third, fourth time before the live action. And Vicious came off as a cold-blooded killer. Even Spike comments that he helped kind of make him that way. But we get that he's almost like this overshadowing character and this lethal assassin. But in the live action, I didn't feel that. I felt more of like a rabid dog that didn't know what to do but knows what it wants. And that to me was such a letdown for such a cold-blooded killer. The only time it made up for him was the last episode for about 30 seconds. The fight scene between him and Spike was literally ripped from the anime, and these guys did it, and it looked cool. I really did like that. And that's what I will say. There's sprinkles of, oh my god, this is amazing. It looks really cool. It looks awesome. And I fell in love with those parts. But there are other parts where this whole series feels like an empty shell of what the anime was. I think that's the best way to put it. And it may sound cliche. I know other people who are reviewing this, who watch it, have all said that. And that's the sad thing, is it's pretty spot on. Like, I agree to it. Like, our first episode in the anime, we get a woman who is with this man who ends up dealing red eye, and is trying to get her to Mars. Well, he ends up using the drug and ends up going crazy off of it, tries to kill Spike once or twice, actually a few times. And we get a lot of, like, we feel bad for her. And at the end, when he's flying off into space with her and Spike's trying to convince her, like, let's just go, like, I can at least save you. You get that he wants to help her and you feel bad for her, right? And the moral of it is she shoots her boyfriend and kills him shoots him in the head and kills him because she realizes, like, this is it. I'm not going to make it to Mars. I'm not going to see what I want to see. There's no life for me here almost. And that's like the heart, it tugs at your heartstrings. But in this one, he gets shot by some random guy. They don't ever show if it's Faye Valentine that really shoots him, and you assume it's her because she's holding the rifle. So Faye wouldn't kill him because he's a bounty and she's a bounty hunter. But then she says that, oh, that guy's worth peanuts compared to the girl, how she's worth more. But they don't pay that out. So I felt like that was a letdown. So I don't know. I just didn't. That first episode didn't grab me like it did in the anime. Where again you felt for her. You felt bad for what she was going through, and they tried to sell it. They tried to build a story of how she was escaping her past, and this guy was going to help her get there. And then they tied him to the Syndicate, which is their Red Eye, and which we do get in the anime. So I get where some of this was coming from, but it didn't hit. It didn't have that punch that the anime had. Maybe because we've seen it done before. I don't know. The other thing is, again, I don't like Vicious. I hated his character. But then we get Julia. Julia, who we hear about in the anime. I mean, we don't get her until the last 2 episodes, really 3 episodes in the anime. And she dies really quick. It's shot in the back and she's done. Then Spike goes on and kills Vicious and tells Vicious, she's dead. In this one, she's almost in every episode, and she's the wife of Vicious. But he was abusive and beats her and all this, and like you see the marks on her, which that part, like, okay, I feel bad for her. But at the end of the series, instead of Spike and Vicious killing each other, they both live because she intervenes and shoots Vicious, tells Spike, kill Vicious so you can take over the Syndicate. And when he says, no, I want to set us free, she said, no, I want the Syndicate. And that's where I was like, wait, I mean, this whole series, I kind of slowly got those trickles of like, oh, she's wanting to take over the Syndicate, but I couldn't tell if that's where they were going until that last moment. I'm like, yep, that is where they're going. And again, Julia was trying to leave it in the anime, and this one she's trying to embrace it and be part of it, which let me down because I'm like, that's not how I always perceived Julia. I always perceived her as a woman who got in over her head and just wanted to get out. And we didn't get that. We got a woman who wanted the power and was really I felt like almost like she was playing everybody to get that power. And at the very end, we see Vicious, who's tied up and scared and all this. He's trying to act tough, but he ends up being scared all the time. Like, it's an act. It's not really him. He's that scared dog. She has a revolver, has one gun, spins it almost Russian roulette style, pulls the trigger, nothing happens. And she's like, well, elders are not supposed to be seen. So I'll voice everything as your wife. So that's how she's going to run the Syndicate. And basically says every day she's going to come in there and pull the trigger and see if he's going to die. That wasn't Julia. That's why I hated about it. Jet was probably one of the most spot on characters in the whole anime. His personality fit who he was. I would say Faye and Spike are a distant second from that. Like, again, his mannerisms and his attitude felt like a Spike, but the story just wasn't there. He was so much about using Jet and getting what he wanted out of it, and essentially just not caring about anybody but himself, which that's kind of how Spike was, and that was perfect. But the way they presented it was just not good for me. They kept presenting, oh, Julia. Every time we heard Julia, it was almost like a twitch, like, oh, Julia, like I gotta, which we got a little bit in the anime of that, but this just ran with it, and I wasn't happy with that because, again, I don't know. I don't feel that was worth it. Jet having a kid kind of was a nice little taste, making that character a little bit more rounded, and I liked that. I didn't like how they brought Ayn out, as a data dog. Now, when he came out, it was like, for me. But I will say this. They did use him better than the anime Because the anime, he would just randomly push buttons as showing that he's actually highly intelligent without really saying he's intelligent. In the live action rendition, that somebody actually hacks him and is able to project himself and talk to them through the dog. I was like, that's really cool. Like, we know he's a data dog if you watch the anime. And again, we're alluded to that he is a special kind of dog in this too. but yeah, we got a little bit more of that. And I was like, okay, I can live with that. Ed was probably the better You know what? I'll actually put Spike and Faye at a distant third, and I'll put Ed at 2. And only because Ed only had about a minute of screen time, and she sold it. The actress, Edens, I can never pronounce her last name, and I'm not good with names. I apologize. We got a minute of her, and it was a very loud, obnoxious, and like crazy Ed that we're used to. That was nailed perfectly. But again, we only get a minute, so you can't really screw up a lot in that minute. So yeah, I would say though that the anime is still better than the live action rendition. I would say this as well is if you're going to watch live action rendition, keep the anime in it separate. You know, these are two separate worlds, two separate things, and don't try to intertwine them. Just enjoy the story. For the story itself, it is a good story. I really enjoyed it. I just wish they wouldn't have slapped Cowboy Bebop on it and just made an original story with all these people. Maybe just even give me new villains, you know, and just create a whole new story for Spike, Jet, and Faye. And, you know, just pick up where the anime left off even. Like, maybe write that he didn't die. Maybe he lived. You know, we just see him fall over, so maybe he's not dead. Faye saved him, you know, or Jet found him. I didn't like, though, that Jet also was a really crappy cop. I want to say this. Like, and we know that in the anime. He wasn't the greatest cop. But this one, he was just really crappy. Like, extremely crappy. But yeah, again, I think it's a good show. Bad live action rendition though, so that's where I'll leave it at, guys. I'll give it about, on a scale of 1 to 10, I'll give it about a good 5. Just average, nothing spectacular, nothing amazing, you know. It's a good show. It's just not Cowboy Bebop for me, who, again, I love the anime, rewatched it beforehand, and it didn't hit well for me. I will say it's worth watching if you just want to go say, hey, I love Cowboy Bebop, I'm gonna give him a chance. Then go do it. But otherwise, just skip it for now. Maybe they'll make go watch the anime again, or go watch the movies and stuff from it, and enjoy that. I just say I did not enjoy this as much as I was hoping. There are other things I will be reviewing that I did enjoy and didn't enjoy, but this is just one that fell flat. So on that note, guys, remember, if you want to watch all of our stuff, check out youtube.com/officialgygo, facebook.com/gygo, official GYGO on both of those. I'm sorry. And of course, our podcast, Talking Geek, that comes out every week. And for that, from Aaron, from Get Your Geek On, have a great one and stay geeky.